Hello, nonprofit leaders. I'm Sarah Olivieri, your host, and this podcast is here to assist people like you, executive directors, board members, and other nonprofit leaders make a bigger impact with insights, tips, and lessons learned from nonprofit leaders and experts. Having been an executive director, a board member, and now a consultant and coach, I truly understand the challenges you face. And that's why I'm here. I'm all about working smarter, not harder, so you can make a bigger impact without the burnout. And so is our sponsor, DonorBox. DonorBox isn't just a suite of helpful fundraising tools, it's a partner that helps you raise more money and supports you in retaining your donors. I love their forward-thinking approach. Visit donorbox.org to learn more. And don't forget to sign up for the Inspired Nonprofit Leadership newsletter, where you'll get bite-sized, actionable tips just for nonprofit leaders like you, delivered weekly to your inbox. Sign up at inspirednonprofitleadership.com/sign up. Okay, let's dive into today's episode. We're going to be talking about the role of CEO and versus operator. Let's dive in. So, CEO versus operator. It's really common for especially founders to experience struggling with, are they the visionary? Are they the operator? The reality is initially often they have to be both. And same with a working board where there is no staff. But one of the ways, especially for new organizations, that I think really helps clarify this is to be aware of when you are in visionary mode and when you are in operator mode. And I like to sum up like operator mode is all the doing around operations, around programming, around funding. And the visionary work is around innovation and right direction. And I have a small business and I am the visionary and in many cases the operator. I have two assistants as well. But what I do is I intentionally create projects for myself that are visionary projects. And the nature of visionary work is sometimes it falls in your lap or you're inspired to do it. And I track that time and tag it as visionary work or visioning and innovation, or the way I call it in the leadership blueprint that I developed is right direction. Because the outcome of doing the visionary work of a CEO is knowing what the right direction for the organization will go in. So sometimes that means reading a book. It means having lunch with people. It means running a safe to fail experiment. Sometimes it means, if you have a larger organization with a place-based organization, it means just walking around and looking and listening. You could be more formal and do a listening tour. So these are all visioning right direction activities. So if you're exploring which direction you might go, exploring relationships that might take you there, those are right direction activities. So first step, if you're someone who has to do both, is to get clear on when I'm doing an activity, is it a CEO visionary activity, or is it one of those other activities? And as you probably, why you came here is because you realize that at some point, it is really hard to hold both. At some point, it's always hard to hold both because the part of our minds, and those of us who are really great at being visionaries, we see that future like from A to Z, and we just want to zoom on to Z as fast as we possibly can. And that works actually when we're a team of one. Now, nonprofits are never a team of one because you have a board from day one, right? But some for-profit founders are, right? And they're a team of one and they can zoom ahead. and you can kind of Zoom with two people. But after that, you really can't run forward that fast. And there's some issues that happen even if you're just one person, you keep running forward that fast, you actually end up creating a not very efficient business because you invite change too often. And that problem amplifies when you have a team because not only is it now not efficient just in terms of direction, it is your team. I call it like visionary whiplash. So they're like frustrated because they're like, I don't know which to focus on, right? Or maybe they think they know what to focus on, and you've changed so many times that they're focused on the wrong thing. Even though then half your team's focused on one thing, and then like two-third, or a third is focused on something else. And then a few people are like, I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna keep my head down so that I don't get dragged along any further. So ultimately, it's really important to identify that visionary CEO role is one really, really important form of leadership. And two, I mean, I've said is really important, right? It is a vital function because ultimately, if we don't have direction in our organizations, we don't go anywhere. Now, there's times when we're struggling for capacity. I like to say, like, if you're on a tiki raft in the ocean, it does not matter where you're going. You don't need to know where you're going. All you need to be focused on is getting a bigger boat, right? So, but if we have any amount of capacity, we need to know where we're going to make best use of our resources and to know what additional capacity to build. So, a really key thing here is visionary CEOs, they often take so much joy in the visionary work. They kind of feel like it's too fun to get paid for. I'm not really supposed to be doing this, right? And kind of have to have like a mindset shift around it individually and as a whole organization to recognize that this is as critical a function as payroll, HR compliance, having programs. This is a critical, critical role. And in nonprofits, if you don't have great visioning and future direction, you won't have great funding because most donors, they want to be on a journey. And you don't always, you can change direction, but you have to have an idea right now about where you want to go. Even if you're on that tiki raft, like let's say you're on that tiki raft in the ocean and a big boat comes by. Now, maybe let's pretend it's not an emergency, but you want to convince them to take you on, right? Take you on their big boat. You're going to have some vision to make taking on your crew compelling on their ship that has a lot more capacity than yours. So it is a critical role. And if we don't internalize that as organizations and as individuals, we don't own it with priority. So that is really, really key. And then the last reason why that's so important is eventually, if the CEO stays the operator, usually it means they're holding all or the majority of the decisions. And then you get a bottleneck, which stalls growth because one person can only make so many quality decisions in a day. A question about memberships, right? So same with memberships as donations, right? It's really important. It's almost more important, right? Because a donor and a member are very much like-minded in this way. I always like to say donors want to say, I helped make that happen. I just used my money, right? Members want to say, I'm a part of that. It's a really similar drive to I help make that happen, which is a specific kind of version of I'm a part of this community and I help make that happen. Members, so if you rely on membership fees, and this is how, for profits work, right? They have people who want to be part of the community. They want to feel invested. And that means that they are a little bit on the inside track. They're not just there for benefits. They're here to hear the trials and tribulations, the big ideas for possibilities of the future. So having a strong visioning role is really powerful in building a strong membership as well. So, what starts to change, or how do we do our first steps in shifting from operator to visionary? I'm just going to leave you with a few tips for that today. As I started with, one is getting clarity on when you're doing visioning things and when you're doing non-visioning things, right direction things, and take note, right? What percentage of your time are you doing that? And then think about, how can I delegate or distribute operator decisions across a leadership team and slowly build that? Now, for very small organizations, there's usually an intermediary step to just hiring more leaders. Usually that's hiring a really great executive assistant who can, the CEO visionary will still make the decisions, but most of the doing to execute those decisions will be done by the assistant. And that usually creates enough capacity to start building and growing the resources needed to grow a team and build up the leadership. And then always watching that balance between, do you have enough leaders, folks who can make decisions about getting results, and folks who can just get the work done. And those people can be one and the same. And kind of, what if you want to grow a really high performing organization, you're going to lean into having a lot of leaders who are also great doers. And if you're an organization that's more like, we have a good system and we just need to like execute it again and again and again, you won't need as many leaders and you'll need just more people to do and execute. And of course, with AI, all of this, like, AI can help make the doing easier, and it is making those leaders even more valuable. And I think I've told you this before. When you're an all board led organization, you're not going to scale beyond a certain point. It's just kind of like the reality of, and if you were to start to scale, you'd be like, oh my God, we have to hire somebody full time, right? Like, so there's, at some point you make this switch, but not that you have to scale. Not all organizations need that. And I'm going to guess that perhaps engagement might increase if you leaned into one or a small group of people on the board really spending more time on vision and communicating that vision out to the membership things. And I spend, for my clients who have a team, we spend a day. When I do it with them, it's usually a 5-hour day, with lunch in the middle. When I do it myself, I don't have to like sit as rigidly in a meeting with myself. So sometimes I'll do a lot of pre-thinking. So if I don't get it right, there's no pressure because I'm going to do it again in 60 days. But it's still not right. Having done this with lots of folks, I can tell you it's never right the first time. But after we've done 3 in a row, so 6 months worth, it starts to get clear. And then each one after, we go from being like a soft spray to a laser beam jet of forward momentum. And it also, as someone who's wearing all the hats, lets me, when I start to get visionary mode and be like, oh, we should start doing this. And maybe we should start doing that. I just say, wait, Sarah, put it on the list to be reviewed when you do cycle renewal. And it's never more than 8 weeks away. Usually it's, 4 weeks away or 2 weeks away. It's usually like only a week or 2 away by the time I'm getting squirrely as a visionary. And I just tell myself, review it with everything else. And invariably, some of the ideas are really good and they make it into the strategy. They go through this rigorous process, which is like a filter. And some of the ideas were just really exciting as a visionary. And then when I put them through the filter, they just end up at the bottom of the list. Or sometimes I don't have the best short-term memory sometimes. Sometimes I get so excited about a new idea and I go back to my strategy and I realize it's already in there. And when I've done that a few times, I'm like, oh, this is a really good one because I keep regenerating this idea, but it just wasn't on a like, do it ASAP. And that's my cue. Like, hey, let's give this one a sooner timeline because it keeps keeps coming to me for different reasons. When I started as president, our board meetings were by telephone with emails. Yeah, now we're online with our documents in Google. Much better, I'm sure. It was challenging to modernize the board. They're shifting from an expensive board management system back to Google because it's actually easy. The board management system was not only expensive, it was causing headaches. But going back to Google, they had to decide, are we going to give each board member their own Google address? Or are we going to let them have their own email address, but have some protocols they need to follow to share and create documents? Anyway, it doesn't matter which you choose. They chose to give every board member their own email. And part of what we just said is, at this point, if you have to teach someone how to use Gmail, it's to their benefit as well as yours. And if they're not willing to learn Gmail and very basic Google Drive document stuff, then they probably don't have the commitment that you need in a board member, and let them go as a board member. And sure, it's a push for some folks, but it's a push in a beneficial for all direction. One hack I like to do using to make the work easier on a board of like taking minutes and stuff is I make the Google Doc for the minutes and I share it with everybody on the call, having everybody in edit mode, and everybody takes minutes, right? So like they can fill in, they can correct. If one person's talking, another person can type, and that way it's not like one person's job to kind of sit there, and that kind of it disengages that person taking minutes from the conversation because they're having to think the whole time, making sure, did I get that right? So it's just a nice way to share the workload in meetings and confirm that the minutes are documented well. I don't remember if they were using Board Pro or something. I don't think it was Board Pro. It was one of the big ones, but I don't remember the name. As soon as they were like, it's taking so much time, I was like, just use Google. Like, even if it was free and taking so much time, I would have told them to shift away. It was causing like hours and hours of work for the executive director before every board meeting. All right. I think we will wrap up there.
You've been listening to Inspired Nonprofit Leadership. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode or the bonus episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share with your friends and colleagues. Tune in every week for more useful insights and wisdom on nonprofit leadership. Thanks so much for all you do for the communities you serve. Until next time, all the best.